Good afternoon, YouTube. It's been a little while since I've been with you. I had a request from a friend that I return to YouTube and make a couple videos. And then he specifically asked if I would do a tobacco review. So here I am. Today, I'm going to be smoking Cornell Deihl Red Carpet from what they call the Simply Elegant series. This tin is not opened. It's from 2009. I acquired this in a large lot purchase of tobacco from an elderly gentleman some years ago. I think I've probably mentioned this before on my channel. This one's been sitting there, so it is described as the perfect blend of red Virginias and Perique with a touch of Izmir for interest, pressed and sliced into flake form. It's not quite as bloated, as I'd expect a tin that has Perique in it this old to be, but it is a little bit, so hopefully that's not a bad sign. But yeah, I have a couple other C&D blends with Perique in them that are not this old, and they look like they're about to explode. So gonna smoke today from a fantastic pipe that I just received at Christmas time as a gift from my wife. She knows I've been looking for some time to acquire a birth year Dunhill, which for me would be a 1985. That either makes you feel really young or really old right now. I don't know which, but sorry in either case. She found me one for sale on eBay and bought it for me for Christmas. And I'm not gonna get a great shot of it here, but it needed just a little bit of stem work. I left some of the dings and wear in the rim kind of the way they were. It is a great piece of briar. It's a root briar, so it's top shelf Dunhill. It smokes. It smokes beautifully. There's not. I don't think that. I think you think that Dunhill pipes are a lot of hype until you get one or two of them and start smoking them, and they really are just fantastic smokers. They knew how to cut a stem really well, in particular, and the bit in it is just fanned out perfectly, leaves lots of room, lots of airway, so clean shape, very English. It's a great smoker. I'm going to use it for this today. So. It's definitely an old can of Perique. It's got all that stone fruit aroma out of the tin. You get this little paper leaflet on the top for the discriminating smoker. Oh wow, it smells. I mean, it has like the very, fermented fruit smell of Perique, but it distinctly has like a really strong, almost like Welch's grape juice or brandy would be better, where it's old and very fermented, but it has that kind of grapish wine background to it. It's a good flake. Man, I should have set this up for better light. Oh, I'm sorry. It's dark. It's very dark. But yeah, that is the overwhelming smell. I can't even get anything else besides that fermented fruitiness. Grape juice almost reminds me of fruit leather, but like the, you know, commercial kind, like fruit by the foot or fruit roll-ups. It's very sweet smelling. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna load some of this up and we'll give it a shot. Okay. I couldn't do the light up on video because I'm walking, I'm lunting. So taking you on one of my favorite lunting spots here where I live. This is a little walking path that goes to a pond with the park that has a bench I like to sit at. You could take note of the ducks and the nutria living in graceful riverbank destroying harmony with one another. We have an abundance of nutria here in the Mid-Willamette Valley. I know people want them all to be killed, but they're all kind of fascinating to watch. So they're sort of like a, if you haven't seen one, they're like a, if a rat and an otter and a beaver could all together have a baby, they're kind of like that. So, red carpet. So far, I've had this lit for about 3 minutes. The sweetness of the perique is not the thing that stands out the most, which is what I was expecting, especially from other perique heavy C&D blends I've had that are aged. It's got a bit more of the, it weighs a little more heavily to the peppery kind of spice side of it. And then that Red Virginia, I haven't smoked a ton of Red Virginias to be honest, but so I don't know what their normal palate is like, but it's got a very distinct kind of two notes of an oaky, like an oak note, and a cedar, like it tastes like cedar smells, if that makes sense. And kind of wrapped in a little hint of leather. And those don't sound like things you want to taste, but you're not eating them, I guess, so it's quite pleasant. It's much, it has a light quality to it that's I don't know, maybe effervescent is the right word. Like it floats away from you. It doesn't like hang really heavy in your mouth. Definitely could stand to dry out a little bit. It's pretty moist, with a tin that just got opened. I'd probably, next bowl, probably spread this out on some paper towel or leave this tin open for a day or so. It's always hard when you're in public places to get used to people watching you talk to your phone when you're making videos in places where there are other people around. It's getting almost spicier, which I thought usually that spiciness in Perique tends to mellow out after a couple minutes. But it seems like it's getting stronger. It's so funny how tobacco can do that. It's like such a strong contrast from the tin note, you know? Like it can smell so strongly one way and taste so the opposite. Here's why I come here. That's it. Right there. A whole bunch of resident non-migratory ducks here that stay here all year round, and sometimes they come and pester you thinking you have food for them. A little retro hail, blow it out the nose, makes that leather come through really strong. It's like diving into an old briefcase. Definitely very spice forward. I don't know if that's a difference in the relationship of the aged Perique with red Virginias in particular, because I don't usually get that from like a brighter yellow leaf Virginia that's mixed with Perique. It usually comes through much sweeter and fruitier. Like, I have some videos, a couple videos where I smoked Low Country Tobacco's Wakama blend, and I really loved that blend when I opened it. I think I smoked that whole tin straight through, and it was like that, and it was just very similar composition to this in its ingredients, and pretty similar aging period, but it is a very different smoking experience than this is. All right, so we're about halfway through now. And boy, it hasn't really changed a whole lot. Now, I find this to sometimes be the case with aged tobaccos. I don't usually find this to be the case with aged Virginia Perique blends, but I get it more with English blends, you know, where when they've been in the tin a long time, they just get kind of homogenized in there, and the flavor sort of becomes like one big flavor instead of a lot of isolatable notes that are easy to pick apart. And I could when I started, and maybe it's because it's smoking a little hot, because it's a little damp, but it's not that hot though. It's not burning me, but it's still just very much overwhelmed by this very spicy note that kind of trumps everything. It's a little bit it's got a little bit of like a wheatish flavor now, so that's maybe come into play, but maybe reminds me of like rye bread dough, and but it's still all of that, just sort of like if you could just cover all that in a whole bunch of cracked pepper. It's like that. I still get the wood and leather notes on a retrohale, but I think some of that is maybe my palate, because it seems to be where I always get those notes on, is retro, like when I retrohale almost any tobacco. That seems to be what I pick up the most through my nose. So that might not be a fair, I don't know, or maybe not fair, but maybe rather subjective. I'm not sure if that's common to everybody or just me. So I would say it's not bad. It's very good, but it's rather monolithic in its flavor. It's not as dynamic as I usually get from a Virginia Perique blend in general, and certainly from an aged one that's this old. So you're talking about something that's coming up on 15 years old, and I usually would get more movement in the flavors than this. Getting on towards the end now, we're definitely in the last third. I would say it's a good smoke that is kind of one note. It's very spicy, kind of a rye bready taste that's continued on, which is good. It tastes good. It's enjoyable. As I'm thinking about other C&D blends I've smoked, it comes to mind that I think this is something I experience fairly frequently from Cornell and Deihl. And I don't know why it is, if it's some treatment they have in their process, or if it's, I don't know. They have so many blends out at any given time. I don't know how they could come up with that many unique recipes that would all be distinguishable from one another. But I definitely get this from a number of their blends where they are they just don't have a real complex composition of flavor. So they hit something that's good, but it's simple. Which you would normally expect out of like a single leaf tobacco, like a straight Virginia or a Burley, or something like that. Like, what to expect. It's going to taste like this. And when you start to add those other ingredients, you expect those to come into play more. And they're just really not that much. And this one seems to be very much overridden by the Perique. I should also mention I'm not terribly familiar with Izmir leaf. I don't know what it normally tastes like, so I would be, I don't know, I guess I should just mention a little bit of ignorance there, that my palate probably doesn't really know what I'm looking for with Izmir in particular, and I don't have a ton of experience. I know I've had a couple blends that use it, but I'm not terribly familiar with it, and if it is here, I'm not sure if I'd be able to pick it out over the over this Perique, over the spiciness of it. So anyway, good blend. I don't even know if they still make this blend. Like I said, I got it in a huge box of tobacco from a very old man that just was too old to keep smoking his pipe and was getting rid of it. And so if it's still around, it's worth a try. It's good. If you like good in a, you know, strong, steady freight train sort of flavor way, it's like that. If you're a person who likes complexity and likes to sit down and try and pick all those out, I don't know that there's a lot here for you. You're gonna taste what's there at the beginning, and I'm getting toward the bottom of this bowl, and it's not changing a whole lot. So pleasant, but singular in its focus would be a good way to describe it. Other than that, get a Berthier Dunhill. I love mine. Much thanks to my wife for being so thoughtful to go find one and procure it, and at a reasonable price. And they're worth it when you can find them. I mean, if it's an estate pipe, don't pay $400 for it. But you know, it's one of those things like, keep an eye out for it at estate sales, antique malls. The last two that I've bought have been at antique malls. I got one of them for like $13, and it had a broken stem that I was able to order some original Dunhill stems, used ones off eBay that had fractured stummels on them, and I was able to fit the stem to this little Group 2 that I have, and it's a great pipe. It's a beautiful piece of briar. You know, there are some pipe makers that get a lot of hype, and Dunhill is not one of them. You know, even if you think about the turn of the century and mid-century boom of pipe smoking and the factories that came out of that, particularly the mid-century, man, a lot of those companies are not around anymore. You know, your staple, like, long time pipe factories, your Savinellis, your Peterson, those guys have stuck it out because for whatever number of reasons. I'm not going to speculate on that. They make great pipes, you know, but a lot of companies just came and went, and some of them make good smoking pipes. Some of them became really, really popular, and they're just not that. They're not that great. Like, they're a good pipe, but they're not a lifetime smoking worth of pipe. And Dunhill makes those for sure. And so if you don't have one, they're expensive. I don't own a lot of really expensive pipes, except ones I've gotten in trade for something or for doing work for someone. I think all my most monetarily valuable pipes I've gotten in some weird fashion. I haven't gone out and spent hundreds of dollars on a pipe ever. But get yourself a couple $100 together. Hit eBay and find yourself an estate Dunhill to add to your collection if you don't have one, and then put some red carpet through it. It's a good blend. It's a good blend. But like I said, simple and focused, and monolithic in its peppery, woody, leathery, weedy notes, pretty much consistently through a whole bowl. That's all I got here. I'm gonna enjoy these rowdy ducks. They're getting all riled up over here, and finish the last of this. It's very good to be back with you. I will try to make some videos more frequently for the one of you that's demanded them of me. And Josh, thanks, and for pushing me to do this. And so, yeah, YTPC. You guys are still a great group of people out there. I'll try to come back more often. Until the next time, grace and peace and pipes.